Hi. Hi. You are live with Lila and
Kimberly.
hi, Kimberly.
Hi,
Why are we here
Lila.
today? We're going to talk about Kimberly. She's one of the most connected people that I met on LinkedIn. Everything that she says on start, she knows all the things about workplaces that make them healthy and happy, and that's why she hosts podcasts called The Healthy Workplace and provides services to companies to help them develop their own happy, healthy workplace. And every time I see her commenting or posting anything, I'm like, this woman just gets it. She just gets it. So when I was choosing one person to go live with to share what does it look like when I go through a brand CV session with a client, I reached out to her directly, immediately. I had 3 people in mind that I might consider, but she was my first choice. And she said, yes, let's do this. So here we are. If you're live with us, welcome. You're welcome to leave comments if we see them, and we might integrate them into the show or ask questions. Otherwise, we're just going to begin and start talking about, what do you want to do with this one-page document that talks about who you are and why people should trust you to do your work and what those results are. Like, why did you want this? What are you going to do with it?
For me, I wanted it because, I think that we all struggle with speaker sheets, podcast one sheets, and all the things that we need to have as a public speaker or podcaster or guest or whatever. And for me, it just felt more right to have everything on one sheet, as well as not just me regurgitating what my offerings are, but actually being able to show a company how I fit in with them and if I do or not, right on this one piece of paper. I think it's a quick look. So I think it's a lot of really important information. And I'm really excited about it.
I am too. And I love that what you said was like it helps them to see how you fit in with them, because you are there as part of their culture for however many days it is that you're working with them, or hours. I'm not sure yet how exactly you work, and we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
But that fit, I think that is why people have regular resumes. They want a company to see how they as a person would fit into their culture and how they work, what's important to them, what's important about a role that they bring to the table beyond just I've worked here, these were my responsibilities. Like, okay, so were everybody's responsibilities who had that role. It doesn't set you apart. It doesn't show who you are, what it's going to feel like when you're in the room. When you hire a coach or a trainer or a consultant, that's the most important part, is going to be that chemistry. And so figuring out how the chemistry is going to feel with you before they put money into you and your services, just to find out that it's really not the right thing. That's what I'm hoping that this will do, is give a
I am
sense.
too.
Cool.
Yeah, especially in the current climate, there's a lot of people vying for attention and vying for hits and whatnot. And I think this is just an easy way for somebody to say, like, their values and mission and all that fits my culture, or no, and then move on to the next person. It's just a really easy thing.
So to give some background to anybody watching, Kimberly and I have also gone through the UMAP process. She's taken all the assessments, and we haven't done any UMAP coaching yet. So you're going to also get to hear me talking to her about some things that I discovered about her, sort of reinforcing some things that I already knew, but also some surprises that were really exciting for me to say, of course you're doing this work. You're built for it. You're actually created for this work. And it showed me in many ways that you'll see why this woman brings something different to the table in this kind of work than anybody else that you've ever met. She has this unique recipe of who she is as a human. And the UMAP sort of shows us what that is. So we started with your strengths. And can you just talk about for a second, like, what was your experience even asking yourself these questions of, what your strengths were? Would you prefer this to that? What did you discover just in the process?
Well, it was interesting process to go through, because there was more than one assessment, which I liked. And I've taken other personality tests and strengths finders tests and all those kind of things before, but this was more emotion based than it was, I think, just like, what tasks are you better at and blah, blah, blah. It asked me a lot of things that were much more deep. And I like that because I think that, as I talk about in my podcast, that we try to separate ourselves from our work a lot of times, and it's really just, that really doesn't work for us. So rather, I want to find out what makes me strong in my work and take that out. And I had actually interviewed Kristen Sherry, the creator of the UMAP, on my podcast, and have been completely compelled by this UMAP process since then. So not just for me, for anybody. So I highly recommend this for anybody, first, just to say that.
I totally agree. I mean, I think that the world must be UMAPed, and this is one of those things that I keep saying, because I really believe that self-awareness is so powerful in terms of your success, and also just navigating your opportunities for failure, whether that's I'm trying to work in my weaknesses right now, or I'm overusing my strengths. So let's just talk right away about some of the things that go into who you are. You're naturally gifted in, well, many things, obviously, but they fall under these themes. And your number one top strength is activator, which is my number 5. So what did you get a chance to look at, what that means or what that means for your life, or do you want me to go through it a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead and go through it for me.
Okay, so activator, it's what it sounds like. You're a spark plug. You go into a room and all of a sudden actions are being taken where actions have never happened before. Where in a culture of this is how it's always been, you go in and inspire those people. You influence them to take new actions. And right now, it's like you walk in and everything is cracked open just by dint of you showing up. It emanates from you. It's part of you. You ask action-oriented questions. What are you doing about this? What are the things that happen in your day that you are doing? What actions are you taking? Because you recognize naturally that actions are representative of people's values, of people's strengths, and of what needs to happen to make something feel different. Different actions must be taken in order to achieve a different result. And you are the actions person.
I like it. It sounds like me.
Yeah.
I don't sit still for long, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I have that as my number 5. And it also means that you're very comfortable with going to a new organization every day, if that's what it means. Because, okay, actions, 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 actions. And you're all about the doing and the being and the moving really fast. So you probably also achieve results really quickly, maybe more quickly than anybody else, especially because of the next strengths that fit in with them. And we'll talk about your strengths blends a little bit. But that, just going in as an activator, it's like you lit a match and threw it into a room. And then because you have as your number 2 strength, empathy, you're not going to let everybody crash and burn. You're there to help them use that fire in a way that feels good. You see people. You understand what their experience is. You're not there just to burn down everything that they have built. You feel things in such a full way. So if it were only those 2 top strengths, you'd be perfectly well suited to going in and creating meaningful change that people would feel connected to in an organization. But it's not just those 2. Your third strength is individualization. Individualization people have a unique ability to give great gifts. You probably have gotten that feedback before, like, wow, I really feel like you thought about me.
That is very interesting. I absolutely 100%. My love language is gift giving, and I have said many times before, not that I don't celebrate holidays, but I prefer to not give gifts on obligatory holidays. I prefer, just any little thing too. I might find a pack of gum that is somebody's favorite and be like, oh, she would love that, so I'll get that for her.
Yeah. I have a favorite gum, actually. It's those, I forget what it's called. It's like ice cubes. They come in like a big, actually I have it over here.
You shouldn't show me. You might end up with a case of them.
This is not a sponsored episode, but I do have my favorite gum like within arm's reach. So ice cubes by Icebreakers. You're welcome to reach out and sponsor Live with Lila if you like. But you know what's interesting? I know somebody else who has individualization as a top strength, and she too prefers to give gifts at the moment that it is the most inspired and most appropriate, rather than dictated by these other terms. And it makes sense too, the way that you go into workplaces and you ask the people who are working there, what means something to you? You're investing in the teams that are already there. You're not somebody who goes in and says, well, if you're not on board, you're out. It's, we see who's on board. We see what your values are, and you're the ones to create something that works well for you, for this team, in service of this company. And also then tailoring your work to the company that you work for. People with individualization make excellent consultants because you are highly, highly tailored to the client. You're built for it. That plus your empathy, I mean, already just those three, but it's not just those three.
There's more, but wait.
But wait, there's more, right?
We're going to throw in some additional bonuses for you today.
All of the bonuses of Kimberly Ficklin, and when I get done talking about her, you're going to want to hire her for your organization, and you should do it. You should do it. Find the money in your budget. Stop buying styrofoam cups. They're bad for the environment. Think about how much money you spend on something stupid like that all year and put it into a woman who can come in and create buy-in for the most positive, innovative, and healthy, sustainable workplace that your organization can be. Number 4 strength is developer. This means that she sees potential, she sees possibilities for how people can make changes that fit them. Developer recognizes small, incremental changes, which in comparison to activator is very unique to have in the top 5 strengths, both of those things. Your activator is let's take big leaps, and your developer strength is what are the small steps that happen within that big leap. And it's like nothing gets missed, and it's all about people. It's a relationship building strength, and people feel very quickly that you are genuinely invested in them as a person. Between your empathy and your individualization, you understand how they feel. You see what is unique about them. You invest in them. And then your 5th strength of the top 5 is communication. You're able to articulate what every person brings to the table and give them words and labels for their actions so that they have very clear understanding of what they've been doing, what the change will look like. You give them clarity where things had been muddled, and you're able to speak to people in a way that they feel naturally influenced to change from within. You are built for this work more than anybody I've ever seen a UMAP for. And that's just your strengths, right? So hearing this stuff about yourself, can you tell me a story about how that resonates or how any of those strengths have shown up before in your work?
I could tell you an amazing amount of stories based off of that. And real quick, I do have allergies, so I'm not crying.
I know you're emotional.
It's amazing stuff. It's not unlike things that I've heard in the past. One thing that kind of brings up was when I was back in nutrition, I was working in the workplace just doing like lunch and learns. I did one called the Sugar Blues, and 2 of the people that were in that lunch and learn asked for my business card. And I worked for the workplace, I wasn't working for the individual people at that time, but these 2 ladies followed me for a very long time, telling me the small things, because the other thing you said is, the activator, and that I have said this a million times, small things add up to big results. So I can be that. And they would say to me, they'd send me an email like every 3 months saying, oh my gosh, and now I've cut out all this sugar. And then I just remember these little things that you've said to me just in these different teachings, and I've implemented those. So, I mean, that right there, yeah, that's just a small part of all the things that I've heard. And I've also heard in the past from people that know me very well that I have the ability to walk into a room and fill people out. And most people can't do that. And I never really even knew what that meant before. Until that statement was said to me. And then I kind of went on a quest to find out, what does that really mean for me? Yeah. And I realized that it's empathy. It's because I relate with people very easily. I can understand what they're going through. And And so, yeah, anyway, all of that
Oh,
is
empathy and
really
development
amazing.
are both relationship building themed strengths.
Yes.
That's what those are. There are themes. There are 4 different themes. There are executing theme strengths, which are not really up there for people like either of us. And we do similar work. So what's interesting to me, reading these things is, okay, we're both kind of in the right place here. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing because we want to tell other people how they should be doing things better. And that is what we do. Like, that's the whole thing.
Yeah. I
And,
love
and
it.
so helping them see it for themselves and feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that I do this is a little bit different than yours, and how they show up, the way that people feel when they're with us. Not only do I have a couple of different top strengths from yours, but our personalities are different. So moving on to just what your personality interests type kind of gears you towards. Mine, I am artistic first in terms of my own at what next results. I am artistic first and then social. You are social first and then artistic. So whereas I show up as like a nurturer, you show up as an advocate, which means that when you go into an organization, you obviously have been hired by the boss. You're hired by this man or woman who has their goals for an organization. And often when people come in who are serving that bottom line, it feels to the employees that they are not important, that they were not trusted to do this change themselves. Who is this stranger who's coming in here? And it creates that atmosphere of distrust right away. Not only do you, because of your strength, naturally connect with people and make them feel that you're on their side, but because of the order of your results in this personality test, social and then artistic, your type is the advocate. People know right away that you're on their side, that you advocate for them first, what their needs are in a workplace. Creating a happy and healthy workplace does serve the bottom line of an organization that you were hired for, but you are advocating for the workers to be happier, to be healthier. And the theme of your work itself, because you could go in and do anything. This work, doing this work for you, advocating for others to have their best life at work, it means something for you. For me to be a communication coach, on the other hand, nurturing people and hearing and taking on a lot of their interpersonal problems, it's not about creating a new culture. It's really about giving people a new skill, investing in these conversations that are very sensitive. And it's not that you don't do that or that I don't do some of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
We're built for the work that we're doing. So
Yeah.
when you go in, can you tell me a story of advocacy that you can call upon for a client?
Actually for a client, not really, but definitely in my corporate world, I used to call myself the underdog lover. So I was
Perfect.
always, it didn't matter who it was. If I saw, and actually I kind of did rub the bosses the wrong way sometimes because because I'm an advocate, I would go in, if I saw somebody coming out of my boss's office crying, I would go over to that person, and empathize with them. And then I would go call out my boss for lack of, I'd say, oh my gosh, Susie's crying out there. What happened in here? Maybe you should go say you're sorry. Of course, my boss didn't like that too much, but I did always have good relationships with my boss and that I could have a conversation like that. But a lot of times I would get told, not your problem, not your worry. But that's probably why I'm so passionate about that in the workplace, because when I did work, I was never able to advocate for people. I didn't have that.
Right.
It wasn't in my job title, right? So now it is, and I love it because I can say, look out at the workforce and see that some people need more advocation than other people do as well.
I've been told that too, like keep your eyes on your own work kind of thing, or like just focus on yourself. And I'm like, that doesn't really jive with my values, right? Like I want everybody to be taken care of. I'm a nurturer. I'm also a performer. I'm very close to being like artistic and then enterprising. So I have other things going on for me too. But for you to be, I mean, you're pretty clearly the advocate, that for you to be in a culture in corporate where your role is not to advocate for people, and that your opinion about how they're feeling is not what's wanted from you, that wouldn't be the best fit for you. Really, what you're doing now is a better fit because it is absolutely your role. In fact, people are paying you to do it.
Right. And I love it because it is something that needs to be done. But if you work somewhere, sometimes you don't have control over that. And now I can
Right.
advocate for everyone that I want to without any fail. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. You get to own that. You get to live in accordance with just your personality as naturally an advocate, but also with your values.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the next part that I want to talk about in terms of your UMAP. We've now reviewed, number 1, your strength. Number 4, we skipped ahead, is your personality. Number 2 are your values. And so for you, meaningful work tops the list. What does that feel? What did that feel like for you? Can you tell me a story of a time when you were not working in a way that felt meaningful to you?
About the majority of my corporate life.
Yeah, I understand that.
I always liked what I was doing, but I never really felt I was in sales. And honestly, that's not always the best feeling department to be in, because sometimes
Right.
the integrity of the company doesn't match with your integrity. And that's often where I struggled, was that integrity piece. Because I'd say, well, really, I want to do this for my customer. I want to do that. That's the right thing. That's the right thing. And often it was said, well, but we don't do it like that or whatever. So, I could feel myself busting out of my skin a lot at jobs because I just could see this opportunity for these changes that would happen, but I wasn't in the position to do that. So,
Right. You see the opportunity for the big actions. Like, you can see change, and that word that you used, change, is important, I think, for you. Not only because creativity is another element of your top values, but it's meaningful to you to be able to create change. And that your number 2 value, service, it must have felt very crushing to be told, here, do these tasks that keep everything the same, where you know that you're built to be a meaningful change agent, and that you want to do this in service of your client. You had talked about your client's needs, and look, wouldn't this be better for them? And that comes from your service value.
well, Lila, that makes sense because, I was doing private nutrition as I got out of the corporate world, and I didn't want to go back into the corporate world at all, like none. I had PTSD until a friend begged and begged and begged, and I did. And honestly, when I did that, I was like, oh, I learned all this stuff and I left all these people behind in the workforce. I have an obligation to come forward and serve a greater purpose here, because and some people might not view it that way, but I did, because for me, I'm like, I can touch an entire workplace rather than the executive on whether they're eating right or not, right? Or the CEO or whatever. I mean, it's just so much more bigger picture. And that meant something to me because I can be in service of more people.
Yeah. Making that meaningful difference
Mm-hmm.
in service and being that advocate in a way that really you are built to be an advocate. Some people use a lot of data in their advocacy. So you can see this personality type, and then you'll see strengths like analytical, and those people are calling out little pieces of data, and you're really more in the feelings of things rather than in the overthinking of things. Often the people who are brought in to lead these kinds of changes are there to look at the data, and they're missing the story of what the data shows. So they end up taking the wrong action, which then has to be undone and can be very expensive later. So is there a part of your process when you go in where you look at the results, you look at what their business needs are? What happens when you go into a company knowing this stuff? What do you do to get to the bottom of what the real story is?
That's a great question. So I have a product called the Executive Audit, where I come in and I audit the well-being of your workplace. And there's 5 different pillars. It's financial, it's health and well-being, it's like how you have your workplace put together, all those kind of things. But what
I want all of them because these are going to go into brand CV. So I'm just making notes here. So financial, health, and well-being.
Yes, financial well-being, the health of your workplace, the health of your employees, which are two different things.
Oh, okay.
What your mental health offerings are, and then what the space looks like inside your workspace, right? Because all those things play a part. So when I do an executive audit, I'm looking at those things, but specifically I'm asking for a cross-functional team to work with me. So I'm going to say, I need you're going to pick that, but I need one person from here, 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 and here. And they may be an executive, and it may be the floor supervisor in the shop, and it may be all over. Because what I want to do is ask a lot of questions about the nature of the business, the culture of the business, how employees feel, instead of just the data of how many absentees you have, how much sick time gets taken, who's showed up to the lunch and learns. That's the kind of data that a lot of people focus on. And it's not bad data. It's just not, for me, it's not the right data to just hyper focus on. There's so many other elements of a business. And what's important to me, like you said, this all makes sense because I use these cross-functional teams in everything that I do. Every program that I offer, I create a Scrum team, basically, is what I do. And I process us through it like that. So really what's different is how they feel rather than data like what is their insurance costs. And people want ROI, but I'm about VOI. So I want to talk to you about what is your value on investment rather than what is your return on investment.
I love that. I'm just writing a note for myself. This is all going to like notes that'll go into your brand CV later. I just wrote VOI and then the greater sign, like greater than ROI. So VOI over return on investment, value on investment rather than just return. So what's the difference in terms of the results for an organization when they're focused on value rather than on bottom line return?
Well, when you focus on ROI, oftentimes it doesn't come through. That goal just doesn't come to fruition because there's so many different factors of people, you know what I mean? And so somebody's going to leave the job today and a new person's going to come. Somebody's going to get a promotion and somebody's going to get a demotion, or they're going to move departments. All of that, it's ever changing. It's very agile, right? So you have to be always agile. So if you're focusing on the value and you're doing internal audits, I don't want to say constantly, but consistently, let's use that word, of how your people feel about the changes that you're making in the workplace, and you're agile and you're changing those as you're listening to your employees, then you can begin to see the value, and it'll happen. The percentages and the statistics and all that are great, but when you walk into your workplace, or you're on, now we're virtual, you bring everybody together, you'll be able to see the tangible difference in the emotions, the feelings, the way that people treat each other, and the way that your employees care about your company is really important. And you give them that by telling them that what is important is them and not their productivity.
Right.
And not that productivity isn't important, because it is. But that's crazy. If you do all this stuff, that's going to happen.
I think when people feel seen, recognized, valued, connected, that they are inspired to produce more and to be more connected to the values of an organization because they see where they fit in with all of that.
Yes.
So
I'm sorry.
So you go in and you have these scrums and you create these with the people who are there. Is it something that you're also training the staff on who's there for how to recognize how the dynamics shift when a new person comes in and what to look for going forward? Or is that when they bring you back in again every time a new person is hired?
No, I do not go in every time a new person is hired. What happens is, in the process of designing or helping a workplace to design their culture, I use this Scrum process. And ultimately, even though I am a certified Scrum Master and I know it, like a lot more than probably what I'm going to even use in the process with the client, it's a framework that they can use for anything, and they can use it every single solitary day moving forward, because it is an agile piece of process. It is an agile piece of business product. And that's what it is. And so they're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember. Now, I don't teach Scrum because that's a whole nother certification, but But the things that I do in the workshops are so easy. And then I'm constantly telling my employers that you can just keep doing this, keep this board up here and work the process like we've been working it and just keep doing it. And then when you get stuck, you need somebody actually to come in and host the scrum, because a scrum master does a little bit more than just the workshop. I'm going to keep people from getting distracted from what we're working on and things like that. You might say, oh, we need her to come back in and run another sprint.
So you can do like spot scrumming. I wish,
and then they might be bringing me back into that. That what? I'm sorry?
I wish scrum were a prettier word. We can maybe find one, but I actually really like it especially because the people who hire you to do this are often in that space where they're very operational focused. They need the person who's emotionally focused because they're very in the tech, the data, the analytics of things, and they're very process oriented. So Scrum is a word that will resonate with your communication partner. So if you want to use it, I wrote some notes down here for what'll go in later to the brand CV. We've got the executive audit. I have some elements of that. And then Scrum your culture, I wrote. I
saw that. I like that.
Yeah, Scrum your culture. And then later, as an additional service or as part of your process, spot scrumming.
Oh, I like that too. That's a good one. Yeah.
I like these, talking like this because you're silly.
That is so true.
What's interesting is that a lot of people shy away from silliness because they think it undercuts their intelligence. But clearly you're a brilliant woman and you're very confident in that. You don't think that it devalues in any way what you're able to deliver, and it also makes you more relatable.
I actually think that, it's the opposite. For me, personally, I need to have levity and I need to have fun. And so when I'm in a workshop where somebody's just handed out a bunch of papers and they're reading off a PowerPoint, I don't absorb the information. So which is probably why I can offer my products in the way that I do, because I offer them in the way that works for me best to be able to offer so that the workplace can get what they need out of it the best, rather than me just being this trainer that hyper focuses on being super professional. I actually prefer to have a lot of silliness, a lot of fun and laughter in our workshops. And you can get a ton of work done. I actually think that we're more productive when we're having fun with what we're doing than when we don't. Yeah.
Even Mary Poppins, had a whole song about a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. And you find fun and snap, the job's a game, and without breaking into song, which I'm very likely to do at any time.
Please do.
A robin feathering in his nest has very little time to rest.
I love your voice. Beautiful.
Thank you. I mean, it makes sense for you because in your values list, and I'll just read the full top 10 values here so people can get a full sense of who you are. Meaningful work, service, love, and then humor, happiness, fun, creativity, pleasure, and then achievement. We get a sense, thinking about your values, of what it's going to feel like to work with you. There are lots of people who might be an advocate personality type, but who don't really value these, the fun, light moments. And so things can feel very heavy. You get this with the militant versions of any cause. And that's not who you are. You go in looking to unite people through a fun experience. And everybody knows that the fun things that you do during the year are the things that are the most sticky in training, that they're unforgettable. You create moments of memory that lodges these things in your brain, and that creates sustainable learning, creates sustainable change. So I think just the fact that you value fun so much, I want to find as many places as we can within your brand CV to infuse that, including just putting it up there. I take silliness seriously or something like that.
I love it. Yeah. I'm actually have been working behind the scenes to create some workplace play shops for adults. And I've had that kind of product sitting back in I have it, but I've never actually offered it yet. So that just falls in line. I was like, as soon as I heard all the things you were telling me, I thought, well, I should probably bring those out. I should probably bring out that play shop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Bring it out. I mean, you like playing. Not everybody knows how, right? I bet when you were a kid, you found ways for groups of kids to come together and play nicely together. Like, you use your creativity in service of finding imagination games where everybody had their own individual role that they would play, where they could be whatever they wanted. So someone wanted to play Mario, somebody else Luigi, and somebody else wanted to play Queen Frostine from Candyland. That would have been me. And somebody else wanted to be a frog, and jump a lot. And you would be the person to bring it all together and make everybody feel like they were having a great time and that their role was important.
That makes sense. I'm the oldest of 12 cousins, and I love to dance. And to this day, my
Yes.
cousins will still tell everybody stories about how I would get us down in the basement at my uncle's house, and then choreograph dances, and we would all learn the dance, and then we bring our parents down and we perform the dance for them. So yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, I love that.
Seriously silly. Somebody, James Eric Lane. Sorry, I'm seeing the thing. Seriously silly hashtag.
He's been putting in all kinds of great hashtags in the comments here. Like, StreamYard is now allowing us to see comments on LinkedIn as we go. So he has been contributing a lot to this conversation just in hashtags, which I just love. And I pinned this one, hashtag seriously silly, because I want to remember it for later. This one.
I didn't even see all these live comments. Woohoo! Oh, how cute.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Betty Rothbart wrote, Lila, I like that you were addressing how a word sounds. The meaning may be beautiful, but the syllable may be unpalatable. Like, yeah, the syllables in Scrum, so you have to have a lot of fun to make the word Scrum sound like what it actually can yield.
Well, that is one of the challenges in the marketing of that, because here's the thing is everybody doesn't always need to know the process by which you do. They don't even really need to know that I use the Scrum process. But the reason why I bring it up is because I do think that people who understand that process, when they hear the word, they're saying, we know what that means. So that it's an easy bringing me in, because because they're like, oh, we Scrum things and we know what that means.
Right. And it makes them feel like, like they don't have to be afraid. They know what a process is. And even if it's something very different, like feelings or playing, that like, oh, okay, I don't know about that stuff, but I can Scrum something. So it kind of removes that barrier. And for the people who don't know what it is for you, whom you're serving those people, there'll be enough other words in this document that show what it feels like, what actually happens during that time.
Yes.
We're going to get a lot of information out and have this great discussion. And then we're going to draft just the outline of different segments of your work, but the balance of what you do, how much room it's going to take up on a page, what it's connected to, that's what we're getting out right now. So I think it's going great.
Me
I'm
too.
getting lots of stuff from you. Good.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. And you talked about, just being a kid and the way that you use those values, for fun and humor. The way that you use the things that your strengths for what you value are the actions that you take, the skills that you like using. So in UMAP, there is a section called transferable skills. And these transferable skills are things that you are motivated to use, things you're good at, and you like using them, because we all have things that we are good at that we do not like doing. And we end up doing them anyway because we're good at them. Maybe we're better than anybody else. But if we use them too much, we are unhappy and we are unfulfilled. And happiness is one of your top values. So we can't let that happen to you. So of the many transferable skills, and I have your full report here, what you're doing when you're in there working with your clients, we're not going to put all of your transferable skills on your brand CV because there are many, but we can call out the ones that are going to be relevant to your communication partner. That's the person reading this document, the one that you need to connect with. So in the Say Things Better method, we think about your overall mission, which is to create a happy, healthy workplace, or to create happy, healthy workplaces all over the world, right? And then everything has to serve that. So that includes step 2, your objective. Your objective for this brand CV is to get hired. You'll know
it is.
That is what happens as a result. So having this on one page, giving it to somebody so that they can clearly see why you are a no-brainer to hire, That's why we create these. And that is your objective. Get hired. Your communication partner has their own objectives. So before we go through your transferable skills and decide which pieces of your toolbox, which is step 4, that you should pull out and share with them, tell me about the person who is hiring you to do this work and what do they need in order to feel that hiring would be a success?
Well, I think that probably the biggest challenge for workplace wellness is that people want to see that ROI. They want you to be able to show them on a document where it says they're going to get X amount of dollars back. So more than likely, they're struggling with understanding what a program like this can do for their organization.
Okay.
They have more than likely done some type of surveying their workplace and found that their engagement is low, but they don't know what the heck they're supposed to do about that.
Okay.
So they're looking for somebody that can come in and, they're like, where do we even start? I think probably they're also worried if they've ever spent money before on workplace well-being and someone came in and, much like you said, rolled out this big program that was their own, didn't use the company's brain trust, and that didn't work well for them. Or maybe they put in a gym or a ping pong table.
Yeah, getting burned on an investment is a major concern for anybody who hires consultants or trainers for anything. There are all these like one and done. You go in, you have fun for a day, or you learn something new, and then you've immediately forgotten it because it wasn't created by the people who are part of that culture.
It's so true.
And that, I think, that's what's different about your work, right?
Yeah, no, I'll do a lunch and learn. I have lunch and learns that I just go roll out and tell you all about the stuff, but they're also interactive because I have a hard time just doing a PowerPoint presentation. And again, they're effective because I have people who email me years later saying, hey, I still remember what you told me 2 years ago in the lunch and learn. But I do not believe that a lunch and learn alone is going to change your climate. It plants seeds. They're good little seeds and they're nudges and cues when you bring people in and teach. But if you really want to change the culture and you really want your employees to be happy and healthy, it's a long-term thing. It's like a marriage. It's a relationship. So you've got to go and work on it.
That's your developer talking, right? Because if you were only activator, you'd be like, okay, I'm here, let's do things, let's go, okay, bye. And you would move on.
Yeah.
But your developer recognizes the importance of the long-term investment in the work, in the relationships, and in those people. So you really are built for this work. Every time I hear you speak from now on, now that I have your up, I'm going to have these labels in my head. And you do because you and I both have the communication strength in our top 5, which means the words are important to us. Like the words matter, and we use them to recognize a huge amount of meaning behind one word. So I like that you have the lunch and learns. Is that something you're going to want to promote on the document that you have them, or do you want to focus on and also I do this?
Yeah, I kind of lump my lunch and learns and campaigns, which is like a 4-week campaign where I work with companies together. They're almost kind of the same type of workshops. I don't really have a name for those yet. They're just called campaigns and lunch and learns. That's what everybody calls them. So
okay, we'll come up with some names for them that are really more specific to what your process is and what goes into there. So campaigns and lunch and learns.
Definitely the executive briefing, and the executive the executive organizational audit. Those are 2. The briefing those are 2 offerings, 2 different. The briefing is, say, it's a good place to start with me because say a company says, we're really interested in what you have to say, but we're not sure that it's going to fit here. And really our mid-management or leaders, they don't understand what it means. Can you come in and tell us what this means? So I'm going to come in and give a briefing about why it's important, statistical data, emotional data, that kind of stuff. And sometimes what people say is, we don't need the briefing. We really know what this is all about, but we don't know how to get started. So we probably need you to come in and do an audit because we've already done some stuff and then other things we haven't. So I have that. Okay. And then my 3rd biggest program is called, funny enough, Agile Champions Sprint Activation.
Agile Champions sprint
Sprint
activation.
activation.
Even an activator right in there. So agile champions.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I'm just putting some placeholders here, but I kind of like them as the headline for what is this thing that I do? What is this thing that I do? So the first one is try me. Executive briefing, why it's important, statistical data, emotional data. And then the next one would be see me, executive audit. So you're really looking and seeing things. And then it's scrum me, right? Is that what this is?
Well, it is. So this is a sprint part of a scrum that we, with the process, the sprint that we would be working through. And it's a 4 week, it's a 4 week, well, I guess it's an intensive really. And it's just with the leaders of your company. And the reason why is because it's a spurring on of the culture. And so I do use still a cross-functional team. It's just mid-managers and up.
Okay.
And we worked for 4 weeks together building whatever it is that they want to build, whether it be an engagement program, whether it be a well-being program, a wellness program, whatever they want to call it is up to them. But we work through the same process to activate the champions in their workplace.
Maybe, to activate the champions. I really like that. Activate me. Activate me. We'll just put it in there for now, and we can change that to something later like run with me or build me, develop me. Developer also being one of your strengths, but I think that that's more long-term, so that might come later. It sounds like if somebody's doing all of these with you, they'll start with try me, the executive briefing, and then, all right, tell me what you see. So see me comes next. And then it's, okay, I think I might be ready to take some action. All of the leaders are going to be ready to be activated. So come in and let's see what you can do with what you've seen. And that's where activate me comes in.
Yeah, I like activate me.
Yeah.
And then I'm sorry?
Oh, and then what happens?
Well, after that, then it's an as needed. You know, it could be that after we've designed a culture program that you need some lunch and learns and you need some campaigns and you need some of these other type of offerings that I have that I can come in and do as well. Also, I work as a liaison. So I partner with other people who don't do what I do, but also are very valuable in the workplace. And so if I don't have an offering, then I can certainly refer people out to people who have offerings as well that I work with.
I think that's develop me. That's, you come in, you do this activate me, and maybe it is like these scrums these cross-functional scrums that you're doing, and you have something at the end of that.
Yes.
And then the develop me is the ongoing. So it's these, am I missing something from these 4 steps? Try me, see me, activate me, develop me.
No, that actually sounds great.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and they activate me, they do. They walk away with what they would consider a done product. In Scrum, they say done. And that's something that the group decides on at the beginning of the sprint activation time. So at the end of it, they walk away with what would be considered a product, because Scrum is an IT thing where they build products, but again, we can Scrum anything. So they'll walk away with a product for their company.
With that product, I know that they're going to be evaluating it as they go on, and they know that things are going to have to be developed, that you don't just like say, okay, here's a software, now you know how to use it, right?
Right.
It's not one of those things, especially if something is a brand new change, that you can't just light the match and leave, which is why you come in, and your empathy is really first, actually, let's look at your strengths, and then we'll go into your skills that are relevant to your communication partner. But your strengths here, which are the strengths that you are using in the executive briefing? This is why it's important, statistical data, emotional data. Maybe that's communication.
That's probably communication. Yeah.
Making it clear, right? It's like you're not sure what something is. I come in and make it clear. So you're leading your process primarily with that strength.
Yeah. So I read a book called The Big Leap, and in it has you identify what your strengths are. And one of mine from the people in the group was that I can distill an incredible amount of information and then regurgitate it in the most simplest of terms.
That's communication. Yeah. being able to say things in a way that really resonates with your communication partner is a communication strength. The fact that it's natural to you, really, it'll help you sell, right? Because one, communication is an influencing theme strength. But because of what your values are, we know that you're in service always. Like, you're number one, you're going to be doing meaningful work. It's only meaningful to you if you're in service. So even though you can be very influential and convincing, you're never going to be convincing someone something that they don't need. You're just going to be explaining clearly what it is that you know that they do need. So I think you're leading and communicating in trying with communication. And then the second step of your process, that executive audit, that see me. What's different about an audit done by Kimberly Ficklin is it's not just about the data. We have the statistics, we have the numbers, the report outs from your company. But what you go in and see is what that feels like. And so that's where I think your empathy is coming in. Your empathy is shining in your second step there.
I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
I'm taking
I nest these, together in different brand CVs. Sometimes they're on their own. In mine, which is an example I got up somewhere, and I'll put it on my LinkedIn profile so people can see mine, and you'll be able to share yours when it's done. But either your strengths, values, skills, and interests will be like in one separate section. I think I might nest these for you so that here's a part of my process. This is one of my top 5 strengths. This is the value of mine that it exemplifies. And these are the skills of mine that are my top preferred skills that I'm using in this way. I think that makes sense for the way that you work, because you're so uniquely designed to doing what you're doing that it's additional proof. This is you. You shine in doing this work. So I'm putting number 2, C, as your empathy. And then your third step, activate me, obviously is activator. But it's also individualization because of what you're doing when you are in there. And when we get into our next private session, we'll talk about some more just examples of you doing that with clients, or something that we can call out, perhaps that leads in a testimonial, so that we know which are the most compelling. And we'll be doing those, looking at your most high ticket price services, and finding stories of those, and then calling upon those strengths and values and interests and skills of yours to make that point. Like, here's who I am. This is what I'm able to do with it. These are the results from somebody who's able to speak to that. We'll make sure that there's some good testimonials in the space there. So okay. 3 being activator, activate me, is individualization and activator. Not in that order.
Can I just say thanks to James Eric Lane, who is just crazy and hashtagging it over here.
He is like the #1 hashtagger of wherever he is, the United States of America, I'm guessing. Hashtag individualization. Yeah.
He's definitely the #1 hashtagger on this live.
He's definitely the #1 hashtagger I've ever had on an episode live before. He's welcome to come back anytime.
I love it.
Fantastic. Proven results. I'm paying that. He's going to write like, Lila is awesome next.
Hashtag Lila rocks.
Yeah. Hashtag this, hashtag that. I love it. I think it's so great. I love when people get involved in these conversations. I hope that people watching are asking themselves, what are my strengths? What am I really good at naturally? And what are my values? What's important to me? And how do I activate those values through my work? Who am I? Like, what do I like doing? Kimberly likes being the one to say, okay, I've got your back. And she'll always do that. She can't not do that. If she asks not to do that, she's very unhappy.
Right.
So she goes in and like must feel like there's a space for her in a place where she can feel like the I've got your back person, then she's happy. And so who are you if you're watching this? What are these elements for you? If you want the assessments, I'll put a link here to where you can get them yourselves. It's a bit.ly link, and it is case sensitive. And you can just do bit.ly/UMAP Lila Smith. And then I'll be able to see your results, and I'll send you some insights for free if you want to do that. So I just put that in a link in the comments here. And then you can get these kinds of insights that Kimberly has for why she is the way that she is and why she's perfectly suited to be doing this work. So I'm going back to our private chat window here for my notes. That your develop me obviously is also your developer strength, and I think it continues to be your empathy and your individualization and your communication and your activator, that because it's ongoing, all of those strengths are necessary for, I need this one for this person, need this one for this person, need this for this particular issue that's come up in an organization. And so you're able to apply your strengths as needed. Or the is all five
stuff here.
Yeah,
and you know what?
Five.
While you're talking, for everybody who's watching, what Lila is telling me, most of it doesn't come as a total shock. I mean, I've been told it in some form or fashion but what to do with it and what it really means is what I'm really learning right now. And the validation that I am doing something that I should be doing, because as entrepreneurs, it's hard. And, for your first couple of years of business, you're trying to do well. And what I did was I had a really thriving nutrition business and decided I'm going to refocus and start almost from fresh again. Why did I?
Yeah.
That's because my friend invited me over to do a lunch and learn at her, a client of hers, our insurance brokers. And she said, can you come over and do a lunch learn? And I was like, no. And I was then teaching a workshop called Intuitive Eating. And so I was, people were paying me for that. And I had 10 people show up at this table at this workplace, and they were just like this the whole time. And then they bought into every program. They followed me everywhere to this day. Some of them are watching right now. And that was years ago. And it just changed my life again, because it was like, I've got to go do this out in the workplace. And then it's a little bit of a dip, and it transitioned into something new, because I really had great branding for my nutrition business. I mean, I did a lot of stuff.
It's a whole investment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was just talking about this yesterday it was this morning with Jim Massey, who for the last, I don't know, a long time has been at AstraZeneca. Right now I think his title is global category leader, something. He's executive, whatever, big man on campus. And we were talking about how he goes in and creates these major changes too, but that one of the main reasons why people are so afraid to change is they really invested in something. They put a lot of their time in something, a lot of their identity connected to something, a lot of their value within an organization is connected to a structure that they have invested their even just hopes and dreams for the future. They put a lot of that stuff in. So just like you had all this great branding, you also had really good results. I mean, you had something that you were happy with. It had to be something that was values aligned that would click you over. And I'm guessing that it was that this feels like more meaningful work to you.
It felt much more meaningful. Again, it goes back to what it really was for me, was that I felt like when I first walked in there, and I could the energy in the room was like, we need this. And I felt bad. I actually felt a twinge of guilt for having left the workplace, learned a bunch of amazing holistic stuff to make my life better, and then was too afraid to go and have a conversation with people in the workplace about it. And what I was doing was meaningful, because I was changing lives, helping people, change their lifestyle, but it wasn't on that great scale.
Right.
And that's where I was like, man, I'm playing small,
Yeah. And an activator cannot play small, because you'll feel like there's a lid on your pot and you've got boiling water inside.
There's so much. I do my podcast, and when I look at my podcast results, like the first time I looked and saw it's in like 20 plus different countries, I was like, oh my good. I don't even care that I don't have 10,000 downloads everywhere. I don't care that I don't have sponsors or ads, or I'm not Joe Rogan. What I cared about was that people all over the world we're getting a message that I feel is super important.
That's
And
that scale.
that just filled me. I was like, oh my gosh, look at all the people who are
Yeah.
listening. That's what matters to me, is how many people can I touch, even with the slightest of a seed. And it works. It works. Seeds get planted and nudges and people pick up, and I hear it, like I said, years later, and it
Yeah.
just fills me up. So
even those things that you were doing in your old work, I bet you're still hearing that those seeds have been, fertilized and have grown and have now like reproduced.
absolutely. I have
And
one
that's how
client that
that
I worked with
scale.
for a while. Her husband was really like, yeah, he didn't really want her to work with me at first when I was doing nutrition. And we worked for 90 days. And all of a sudden she became this crazy exercise person, which I never, like, she just did. And
Yeah.
her husband took a video recently of her walking around our mall at 10 o'clock at night because she insists on getting enough steps in the day, and he blames me for it.
I relate. That's the
And that
kind
was
of
years
time I bet
ago.
you're happy to take.
Yeah, that was years ago. I'm laughing. I'm like, that's funny. I didn't tell her to exercise like that, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I
those
love
kind
that.
of things definitely make me feel like even just the smallest of thing can make a huge impact on people.
That's where your developer and your activator really work in partnership together. The part of the UMAP process is identifying which your driving strength is, which is the thing that you cannot do without. Like you absolutely cannot stop yourself from using this one strength if you tried. And it's different for everybody. For me, it's strategic, which is my number one strength. It used to be communication, but now I'm like, I can't stop myself from seeing here's the next process that has to happen. But when strategic is in the driver's seat, it looks different if woo, which is one of my other strengths, which is winning others over, rallying big groups of people. If rallying big groups of people is sitting in the passenger seat with my driver, what is the car going to do? It's going to strategically create a way to rally a big group of people towards an end goal. So that was the perfect example of like why I created this Shakespeare sonnet marathon, or why I gathered an audience to watch us do this process.
Yeah.
Instead of just having it be, let me do this strategically for you, it's how can I strategically impact more people? And so that's like what happens when those things are together. So for you, what happens for you when activator is in the driver's seat and the passenger is developer? It looks like this. It looks like we want to make big changes. Here are the tiny seeds. What does it do if, let's say, empathy is your driver, that you're always going to be feeling what other people are going through? Empathy is your driver, and then communication is in the passenger seat. Like what would that look like for you?
Oh, wow. Well, that definitely looks like listening to people.
Yeah.
And just really hearing everybody, and really not only just from my perspective of, wow, I really just listened to that person, but seeing that person felt heard,
Felt
or feeling the energy from that person, or the body language, just saying like, oh, finally somebody listened to me.
Yeah, right. You can see when you have that impact, when you've seen that effect, you're able to look at that body language and you read it as language. That's what the communication strength is doing there for you. Your empathy feels what they're feeling. Your communication can put a label on it so that you can say, I've achieved this or I haven't. And so that's what that looks like. It's a perfect example. Yeah. So
Yeah, my husband doesn't like it so much, but
because you can read minds and so
yeah, because I'll be like, so I think, and he's like, stop, just stop.
yeah. No, I get that too. I get that with people with the communication strength that we have. We often can put things into words that people haven't even said yet. We find ourselves compelled to finish other people's sentences, and something for us to work on for sure. As we listen, you have empathy as one of your top strengths and developers, so you're more naturally geared to be a better listener than I am, as a matter of fact. But it's something that I have to like really focus on. But because
there's lots of things I have to focus on.
yeah, we all
Yeah.
do. Like, but that's where the awareness comes from.
Right.
I know that if my activator is in the driver's seat, I'm going too fast for most people. But
Me
now
too.
But like now
For sure.
that I know your UMAP, I'm like, yes, I have someone. I can always just be like, Kimberly, I have this idea. And you'll be like, go for it. And I'll be like, yes.
Always.
Yeah.
I probably almost to a fault.
Oh,
But
for
I
sure.
fully believe everybody's potential. I honestly believe that if people really want to do it, because I'm much more of a driver than a lot of people are. So I'm always like, come on, why aren't you coming?
Right.
Go back to my poor husband. He's like, oh, that's probably not my strength. And I'm like, come on.
Right.
Yeah. And I also like to, going back to the communicator and empathy, I like to put, I want to put words with your emotions. So it drives me, one of the things that drives me nuts, and I also work on, but I help other people work on, is getting in touch with their feelings and voicing what that is. So people will say, oh,
Yeah.
I hate it when you don't listen to me. And I'm like,
Voicing your
they'll say,
feelings.
yeah, they'll say, I feel like you don't listen to me. That's it. And I'm saying, no, that's not how you feel.
What does it look like in the
How do you
workplace?
feel?
What does it look like
Well,
in the workplace when people don't feel heard? And what is the impact on their health that might have?
that's my story. When they don't feel heard, they create chronic illness. They manifest themselves really ugly things: stress, anxiety, devaluing, losing their worth. All of those kind of things happen when they don't feel heard in the workplace. I know that I felt like my employer got to say what my worth was, all the way down to when I was a nutritionist. I used to talk to people about even your insurance. Like, all they're telling you is you're worth this much money and this is all you can go do. And if you want to see a
Right.
chiropractor or holistic treatment or outside of this, well, that's not really in the cards for you unless you want to pay for it.
Out of
And then
scope,
we start
right?
to value ourselves towards our insurance. We're like, well, our insurance only thinks we're worth this much, so
Right.
I'm not going to go spend my
Oh
money
my
on a
gosh.
nutritionist.
Wow,
Right?
that's so powerful. I want to
Yeah.
just sit with that for a second. Like this moment is for me. Just sitting with that, like in terms of what we assign our own value to, right? Like maybe somebody has a paycheck and they're like, I guess that's what I'm worth. Or somebody's insurance says, this is what care you deserve. And outside of that, then people feeling like, well, shouldn't I just accept what my insurance company says as the authority? And like, actually, no, you are the authority on your own health and your own needs. Like that's a really powerful sentiment, Kimberly. And I'm going to sit with that for a good long time.
Yes,
After
everybody should be thinking about that, because that's what I did. I let other people tell me what value or worth I had, or lack of it. And I got chronically ill. I woke up one morning sick, and I still have an illness that I'll have forever and ever. I just know how to make it better now. But that's what happens when people aren't heard. You don't feel valued. You don't. It's no different if you're, again, I go back to a relationship. Uh, an employer-employee relationship is like a marriage. It's like any other relationship that you have. And if you don't listen to your partner, you will be divorced.
Yes,
Or you're at least going to have a lot of
employees.
trouble. Your communication's going to be bad. You're going to be fighting and bickering with each other. But if you can come to the table with what can I do for you today? Some of the simplest things are just asking somebody a question. We just don't even hold enough space for that. Right?
Oh,
What
that's
what
interesting.
what can I do for you today that would make you feel like you're valuable?
When
I
you
mean,
go into companies, do you give them examples of questions that they can ask?
absolutely. So a lot of times companies will, one of the biggest things is, I don't know how to create space for the things you're talking about. I don't know how to have a conversation about mental health in the workplace. And I say, well, here's an easy thing. So I do have, if I don't have it on my website, I don't think I do. I think I've got another freebie in there, but I can definitely get you the link to my
Yeah.
icebreakers coffee chat.
Yeah,
25
we'll put
icebreaking
some of those
questions. Because how you,
on your
yeah, I'm
brand
sorry.
CV. We'll put some of those on your brand CV. And a link
Because
to that would also be great to put in the featured posts section of your LinkedIn profile, so that when people go there, they can see some easy things.
yes,
You think about what's your objective for this one page. By the
right.
time someone is getting your brand CV, they're already interested, at least somewhat, and you just need to make it clear with that document. Your
Mhm.
LinkedIn profile, maybe they've never heard of you and they're checking
Yeah,
you out for the first time. So that's why having the brand CV there will help. It'll give them more of that information. But also having easy things that they can do right now for free gives them a taste of the experience of you. Like, I think those icebreakers would be a perfect thing for somebody to experience right away.
It is, and it's something they can print off and take, right. I always give it at the end of one of my talks, because inevitably the question comes up every time is, how do I create that space? And nobody really wants to talk to me because I'm the boss and they think I'm the boss and whatever. And I say, well, because you're trying to sit down and have a conversation with somebody you have built very little relationship with. Even if it's your direct report, you're just not
Right.
doing the right things. And now you're saying, how do you feel today? And they don't want to share that with you because you've built you don't give them autonomy. You've built no trust. You're not transparent.
Right.
How can you do that then? Well, you have these coffee 15 minutes. I say it's 15 minutes every day. You make it consistent so people know what's going to happen every day. You provide the coffee or the donuts or whatever, and it's just a space where you ask them a silly question. They ask each other. You just have these questions, and they say, if you could be anything in the world right now, what would you be? And they're going to be like, I would be an astronaut. It doesn't matter. And it's just a safe space. And you do that 25 days in a row with just questions that are super safe. And pretty soon everybody feels nice and safe and comfortable with the answers.
Yeah.
And then that's when you can start asking people, how do you feel today? We really want to know how you're doing and what we can do to make you feel better if you're not feeling well. And they'll be really interested in having a conversation then, because you provided the space where it wasn't immediately like, tell me about your mental health or tell me about or take this survey. It's just a place for people to be every day.
I'm putting in intrigue me, and we can call it something else later, but intrigue me, where icebreakers go, free value that they can get. Like when they're on your brand CV, if they don't even read past there, they'll at least have an experience of you. And we might do something like jumpstart me, or, something like that before anything else. Well, let me just put a note here. And we'll put the icebreakers in there, or maybe like something that they can do immediately, which as an activator will feel good to you to have at the top of your document.
I like it.
Yeah, because how often do you read to the end of these very long, like it's not that long, it's one page and it will be very simple looking, but even still, how often do you look at all of it?
No, I'm going to look at, and actually what I liked about on yours is that it does have like the topic, so I could quickly skim through and see, oh, I'm interested in that. I don't really care about that. I'm interested in this. I care about that. I liked it.
Right. Thank you. We'll do something like that, like pretty much like that exactly for you. So people are like, where am I going to fit into? Oh, I see what she's saying.
Right.
Yeah. So I've got that in. I put it in our notes. I mean, our comments here.
Oh, that's okay.
What our notes look like. I'm going to just copy that over into private chat so that I can save it. Jumpstart me, or intrigue me. Icebreakers. Okay. So I've got like plenty of stuff from what your process is. I'll switch to sharing my screen just so that we can see, like, this is what you're going to look like. We'll use this picture for now. I know you're going to get new ones with curly hair since we are embracing the curl.
We are embracing our naturals.
Yeah, I'm embracing what I've got until I can meet with Kat Sam again, my hairdresser, like in public and feel safe. But
you've got beautiful hair. Don't change it. I love it.
I mean, it is. It seems like a visual extension of our personalities, yours and mine, right? Because we're very like.
It is so true. When I was younger and my children were younger, and I would straighten my hair to go to work, my son he just hate it. He'd say, "Oh my gosh, Mom, no, that's not you. Please put your curls back."
Right. Yeah, I get that. I mean, I do feel like it's very me, but I also feel like the version of myself that I want when I'm taking my work seriously. I want different parts of my look. And I was an actress for a long time. So costumes and hair and makeup, I do understand and appreciate the transformative power on the person of the way we decide to present ourselves. So it's a conversation I have with myself a lot, right? Like, this is me. And this is you too. Like this here that's you. And
it's true, but even in media, if you go back years, decades, and you look at the rules for like women in media, they were not allowed to have curly hair. You couldn't have, everything had to be straight and shiny, and you know what I mean? And just only in the last probably decade have women been able to really be themselves, I should say, right? And come out with their curly hair and some frizz and crazy stuff, and not and be accepted in the media.
Yeah. I mean, all of that, the things that we need to do in order to be accepted in the media. These are things that are unique to women, really. Like yes, there are some things that men have to consider in terms of an advantage another man will have, but you're really being evaluated differently on different criteria still. A lot of people, are mention Gary Vaynerchuk a lot of, often as, content creation king and helping people to be authentic and embrace their story. And I think that he makes a lot of really good points. I like a lot of what he does have to say, but there was this one day I got pissed. He posted something. There was a woman who was working for him who wasn't wearing makeup on a particular day. And he puts the camera on her, and I have video anxiety, especially when I'm not like controlling what I look like.
Yeah.
Especially after 10 years in acting. So I was like, on her behalf. And she didn't want to be on video. And he was like, look, this is why this is bullshit, because you have so much to offer. Who cares what you look like right now? Besides which, you're beautiful. But like, really, like, it shouldn't matter. And I'm like, but it does. It does matter. And you're speaking from a position of privilege. And I can tell because I know what the doubt is. Even if it has nothing to do with how people do or don't get used to seeing you, it's about how you feel comfortable expressing your voice. So
that is very true.
Yeah. When we think about these representations of our brand, it's what makes us feel that we are sharing the version of ourselves that we want to.
So true.
Yeah. So the picture is important. The picture is important.
It is. And I'm all about no makeup too. On video, that doesn't look so great. It's actually, you look not super good on it. Just isn't always the best, because makeup can make video look a lot better. But one thing I do struggle with is always, for content purposes, is being inspired by wanting to share something quickly, but looking like I haven't taken a shower in 3 days, and going, okay, my branding, but then I'm like, wait a minute though, I'm that person too. Yes. So how do I share that part of me without people going, oh, she doesn't look all dressed up today? I don't look dressed up every day. I do that first, but does everybody? Right. Do we all just walk around our house on the weekends full makeup? I don't think we do. And I also want to be able to share that with people, but then you also hear that, oh, well, that's not the best branding for your business. And I think it is too. It's transparency. It
is. Well, and that's when, it's part of your values, like just having fun with things, being creative. But if you're really asking yourself that, how do I share this thought? How do I share this sentiment? But I'm not comfortable with how I look. Let's look at your transferable skills for a minute. You've got improvisation. To improvise is one of your preferred skills. So you can think on the fly and you can be like, well, I have this idea, let me share it. But to write is not one of your preferred skills.
So that is so true. Yeah. That is so true. It's like we talked about, I'm writing a book this year, but I'm not going to write the book. I'm going to have to transcribe the book and have somebody write it in my voice, because if it does come to content and I have to sit down, like Kristen, I love Kristen Scher. She told me, write a little book of stories, have it with you everywhere you go. I've got a ton of stories, but to sit down and put it in text, I'll just jump on a camera. I'm like, if I could just do it in a video real quick and tell people how I feel, done.
And I would watch that book, right? Like, I think we're going to start engaging with media differently. I'm already listening to Mel Robbins, Work It Out, and she does this audiobook that is this. It's these live coaching sessions, and people get to listen to them as case studies. She'll go back in and add comments later, but she lets you listen to their whole conversation live, and there's so much value that comes from that. Not only do you have improvise, but you also have innovate. So why not write a book of voice memo stories? You can just hit the little voice recorder thing on your iPhone or something, or whatever your phone is, and record what your voice is saying. You can use something like unsplash.com to get free images. You can layer in with photos of yourself, because another one of your preferred skills is imagery. Illustrate through drawings or sketches, photography, or other artistic means. So I will share a video here I'll share it on LinkedIn next week, called I Have Something to Say. And it's 1 minute long, and I'll show you what I've done with it. I used a couple of things. I used unsplash.com to get free stock images. I took some little videos of myself, but you could use brand photos that you already have taken that express the sentiment or go along with it enough, splice them in. And you can use a free app like InShot to edit those things together.
I have that, yeah.
Record over it. You can put all of that into clips if you wanted to, like create a video, put it in clips, and then record it with subtitles. You could record it and put the whole thing into Subtitle, which will subtitle it for you. And so you can create that content. Someone like you who has implement, improvise, innovate, and imagery as preferred skills. When you're thinking, I don't want to be on video, what's a thing I can do to share that idea? Looking at your skills, it's not going to be right. That has an X next to it, not a check. That's how I know that about you. So when I work with clients, I'm like, here, try to do this to get your voice out. Having this information is so empowering.
Well, I love that because every time you speak, you bring up something else. I'm a big sketch noter, and often in my talks, I do the sketch noting, on a whiteboard. I do the visual note taking. I'm one of those people. And so often in teaching, I use visual note taking on the board.
Yeah.
So that makes sense too that you said that.
Yeah.
Oh, James is leaving. Okay, James, thank you.
James.
I just threw my things.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, James.
Yeah, we're gonna leave also, but in our first session, just to recap, some of the things that have come up are the major category headings. We have a name, like fun names, not just like executive audit, or executive briefing. We've got try me, see me, activate me, develop me. And those things are in line with Kimberly's values. We've got your strengths and which ones happen at which points in your process. So we have all of the headings of things. We're going to stick them into this CV as a draft. And then in our future sessions, we are going to fill it all out, get the words right, make it feel polished, make it feel like something that you're proud to hand to someone and say, this is me, this is my work. And as you read this, you're going to envision your culture, your workplace being happier and healthier.
I love it. Beautifully said.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this with me. It's been such a pleasure and an honor to go through and understand more about your process, why you're built for this, and what kind of an impact you must have on all the people you work with.
I love it. Thank you. So this is so much fun.
Yeah.
It's really fun because it's fun to learn about yourself. It's fun to learn it in a much, like I said, people have said this or that, or then this is more structured, like, wow. And then you start to say, wow, the things people have said are true.
Right. It's sort of
because sometimes we can't accept what people say about us. We have a hard time. Yeah.
We have your mission. We have your objective, which is get hired. We understand your communication partner's objective, which is to get clarity on what the impact this is going to be on their organization and what that might feel like, why you're not going to be a waste of money. And then we're going to pick the things from your toolbox. We'll pick some of those skills next time and start filling this in with stories that are going to help them to see why you're not going to only be like not a waste of money, but what the return will be, and that will really be value. Not just you make this much more money, but these values of your organization will be activated through and results. And we'll use some testimonials to tell those stories and to reinforce those in their minds. And then the last thing is verb your values. So you and I are going to do this in a separate private session. Verb your values is how you communicate, what it feels like to other people when you communicate. An example of what that might look like, and this is how we're going to check our tone for the whole document. Is it what you want to do to people with your communication? So my promise, my communication promise, which is the end of a Verb Your Values session, is I promise to affirm, to connect, and to empower my communication partner. And yours might be something like, I promise to empathize, to activate, and to develop my communication partner. Or it could be, I promise to play, I promise to partner, and I promise to see or to hear my communication partner or to value. So we'll go through that exercise together. Really looking forward to sharing those verbs on your brand CV itself, and also as our own way of holding ourselves accountable to expressing your tone through the document.
All righty, I'm ready for it.
Okay. Well, we're
Yeah.
going to sign off. If you've been here, thank you, James. Thank you, Betty Rothbart, otherwise known as Mom to me.
Oh, is that your mom?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, hi, Betty.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah. Oh, she's good with Betty. I mean, like, really, I appreciate the people who are watching this so much. I know there are going to be people watching in the replay. So just finally, for those people, where do you want people to find you who are just watching this?
Well, the best way to find me is at my website, thehappyhealthyworkplace.com. You can find my podcast episodes there, and you can find my contact form. And I am working on the back end because I've moved, like I said, I'm doing this business switch. So I'm working on some of the pages that were more geared towards nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll find mostly podcast page at this time, but you can definitely connect with me there.
Yeah,
I actually think I have 2 freebies up right now.
You do?
So,
okay.
I know that
sign off.
I know I have
get some free stuff.
Yeah, I know I have 10 resources that you already have in your toolbox to create a happy, healthy workplace. So
awesome. When we do the second session for this, I'm going to ask you what those are, and we're going to put those in your toolbox section of your resume or in that the Intrigue Me, Jumpstart Me, whatever that is.
I love
Super excited to go forward with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lila.